Good evening. Welcome to the September 9th edition of the Derry Cooperative School District School Board meeting. We'll start by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have approval of the public minutes from August 27th. I'll take a motion. First by Jason.
Second.
Second by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 6-0. All right, next we have delegation individuals. We have 3 minutes. You come on up, give your name and address for the record, and we'll have it open. All right, moving on, we have Anthony with the Pinkerton update.
All right, so I know I said it last time, but construction is still on schedule for the social studies building. We're aiming to be complete by December and open by January. And another update about access control. I believe it's in all buildings now. So for anyone that doesn't remember, all of our buildings now have an access control, so anyone that isn't a student or staff or someone that shows up late, they have to go through the new sign-in process that we have to, it's makes the schools safer. Open house will be September 18th. This is for prospective families. The Meet the Teachers, which is for, students that are already here, for the parents to meet, the teachers. That's September 25th. The MACPLAC schedule has been released. For anyone that doesn't know what MACPLAC is, it is the big competition that is sponsored by Max Apples between Pinkerton and Londonderry High School. It's all the fall sports. This year, Londonderry is hosting. Golf is September 13th at 3 p.m. Cross country, September 24th at 4 p.m. Boys soccer is September 27th at 5 p.m. Girls soccer is September 27th at 6:30 p.m. Field hockey is September 28th at 11 a.m. Volleyball is September 28th at 12:30 p.m. Football is September 28th at 2 p.m. and cheer will be on November 10th with time to be determined. And last but not least, tomorrow is a remote day. We had a bit of a snafu with parking. We couldn't get enough buses to, shuttle the juniors like me because we would have had to park somewhere else, but it will be a remote day. And for anyone that can vote, make sure you vote tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate it. All right, next is our update and potential vote on our superintendent search. So Michael and I, last week, we met with 4 out of the 5 groups that were that submitted proposals. Excuse me. Geez, losing words there. 4 out of 5 were pretty competitive bids. The 5th one was, out of our price range and not really competitive compared to the other 4 bids. So those 4 that we met were G&D Associates, HYA Associates, NESDEC, and Talent Magnet. So Michael and I sent out summaries to the board over the weekend, Friday, Saturday over the weekend, so I won't go through everything. We've had the actual bids for a couple weeks now, so I'll open the floor up to any discussion or any questions the board members may have. And then the ultimate goal here is tonight to vote on the group that will lead the search process for us in this district.
Well, I guess I'll start. Resumes look good across the board. I'm in favor personally for awarding G&D, given the fact that they are helping us with the strategic plan for the district. I think that outfit is going to be as knowledgeable about things that are happening in the district, about the communities, the families, the teachers, the buildings, what's happening in town. They've been working on it for several months. They've conducted interviews. They've had sessions with us. I feel that they are about as tied in as possible to really hit the ground running, and they're in the best position, I think, to identify and help us work to identify Austin's successor. So personally, I'm in favor of G&D. I've been very impressed with the leadership of that company. They're accessible, they are great communicators, they return emails, they return phone calls, they return texts. They're knowledgeable about education, they have a background in education. Not to say that the other firms don't, but I've just been very impressed with them throughout the entire strategic planning process, and believe that they will put us in the best position to give us the leader for the district moving forward. So.
Thank you for the notes that you had sent over. I was also leaning towards G&D just with where they have been working with us, and then also just what they included for their price compared to the other firms. I was definitely leaning towards G&D.
I guess I'll go next, going down the line. So I was impressed really with NASDAQ, G&D, and HYA's initial proposal. It seemed like, David and Michael, you guys were also impressed with really those three as well. Talent Magnet, I think, again, on paper, it looks good. I think you guys had talked about, they are a new organization, so they've only been around for a couple of years. So, as much as I don't think that's a reason to necessarily rule them out. It's just, I think obviously with any district, the most important hire is the superintendent. And so it's just hard to take that type of risk, especially when we do have the relationship with G&D already. I think their intimate knowledge and, the alignment to the strategic plan. Something that stood out to me that you guys also talked about was the post-hire support that they would offer. So I think, again, that's a continuation of the strategic plan that we've talked about. They also talked about the behavioral interview process. It seems like, NASDAQ kind of had that as well. The two things that the one thing I liked about NASDAQ and HOIA is they did seem to have, pretty robust networks. And so obviously, if, G&D was the route that we go, I hope that they're able to kind of emulate that and reach out to and get as many candidates as well. I think, with their kind of marketing kind of plan, I guess that was a part of it. I think they would be able to do that, and I think they're again going to give us the ability to try to get as many candidates and try to I guess sell dairy because that is part of this process as well. As we need to candidates want to be, or we want candidates that want to come here as well. And so I think G&D would be able to do that. So. Again, I think we'd be fine with NASDAQ or HYA. I just think that really the differentiator is the strategic plan and the relationship that we have there in the post-hire support.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we were taking nothing else into consider other than, these interviews and the proposals that we received, it would be very close between G&D, HYA, and NASDAQ. I thought they all interviewed really well. They had, great proposals, great similar methods. Talent Magnet is the one that I would cross out because, I mean, they are a new firm, which is, nothing to hold against them. They don't have a huge track record, but the person that we interviewed that's the CEO, just as far as I was concerned, didn't interview well. I just didn't get a good impression off of, that brief interview. But, I mean, the other three, again, if we were in a bubble, you probably couldn't go wrong with any of them. I think, HYA actually bid on our strategic plan, and, we didn't go with them at the time. We went with G&D, but this was two different people from HYA that we were interviewing for this. So, it was a different vibe. I was very impressed with the two of them. I think they do a great job. And, I mean, NASDAQ, was similar. I mean, I was impressed talking to them. They, they have a local angle, whereas that they are, laser focused on this region, but they still have, reach to attract candidates from around the country. But, you know, I mean, I think with G&D, you know, we know them, they, you know, they've just done our strategic plan, they've been in the district. I've heard nothing but good things about them from everyone that they dealt with, people that participated in interviews or focus groups or, you know, within the administration. I haven't really heard anyone say that they weren't impressed with them. And, you know, and they've built relationships here. I mean, they've gotten to know, you know, all of us. They obviously have done a ton of research into Derry and the district and how we operate. And, you know, they are, you know, behind our strategic plan that's going to carry over into, you know, a new superintendent. So I think that that is a huge thing to take into consideration. And then their offer is more all-inclusive than the others. A lot of the others include add-ons, and G&D really includes the most robust post-hire support of any of the other offers, and I think that's really important.
I actually was leaning towards an ESDEC. I've heard from people in the community that they feel like G&D may be too close to us to be objective in this, this search. And it was worth considering in my mind. NESDEC has worked in Derry prior. We had John Moody and I believe Laura Nelson hired through NESDEC as well. So they do know us as well, just a little bit older. That's what I got.
So it's funny, going through this process, I came late to the game when I got elected 3 years ago when we hired Austin. I didn't see the beginning parts, but I went through the final stages of the process, and talking to these firms, it's like night and day, like of how we experienced the process back 3 years ago compared to what they're offering us now. And I know some of the stuff was common sense stuff, but it's just, I hire people, I'm not a hiring manager every day. I do it sporadically, and just listening to each one of these groups present just innovative ways to see, because anyone of Austin's level or that superintendent level can come to an interview and wow you and give you everything you need, but the description of how they put people through interviews and the stressful process they put them through, leading like presentations based on our strategic plan or something like that, and how, you know, really trying to make them work to come to the interview. And one of the things that G&D really impressed me, and I'm sure this isn't anything earth-shattering, but it kind of stuck with me, is I think the first words out of their mouth when we started the interview was, we want to sell Derry. We want to create a profile of Derry, why people want to work here, why someone would want to come here and be the superintendent of Derry. And come up with a profile of those reasons. And it seems very simple and very obvious, but it takes time to do that, and it takes effort, and clearly these groups have the expertise to do that. And you know, that's something that really stuck with me, and I think, because at the end of the day, you want to, I mean, we all have left jobs in our career. We might have liked where we're at, but then all of a sudden you see this opportunity that kind of sticks out. You say it's a challenge, or it seems like something that you would want to try something different. Or some people sometimes get stagnant in their roles. So I think, like I said, NESDEC was really good too. I was really impressed with NESDEC, and I would agree with you there. They have a lot of history of placements and long-term placements. 'Cause I think at the end of the day, we need a stability, right? And we need somebody that's going to be around for a while. So I guess what I would say is, all the groups are capable. I think we're gonna whoever we choose tonight, we're gonna experience a whole different process that we did last time in the positive realm, and I think it'll set us up to success for the very, very, very important position that we have coming up to fill. So with that being said, I'm long-winded here, but I mean, I could go, I'm leaning towards G&D, but I could be convinced of NESDEC as well. But either way, I think we have really good options here, and we're going to get really good results as a result of whoever we choose.
I was just going to say one last thing, you know, in terms of, you know, the closeness to G&D, as they have just done our strategic plan, is that, you know, the job of this firm is to find candidates for the superintendent position. You know, it's ultimately going to be our decision to pick which one of those candidates gets hired. So, like, that's a little bit less of a concern, for me, than, relationships that they may have built while they were doing our strategic plan. I think that them having done that is more of an advantage.
Yeah, I would just, I mean, I know the statement of it's too close, I, I guess, what does that mean? Would be my initial reaction to that is like, what is, I don't know. One of the things that I know, I'm not on the strategic planning committee any longer, but one of the beginning of it, they had talked about, they've worked with organizations or districts, and one of the things that I knew that drew me to G&D initially was, the strategic plan is what drives the district, and they even talked about in districts that they started doing strategic planning consultation with, where districts had had a superintendent that vacated their spot, and part of that process of finding the replacement was to ensure that the candidates and that interview process were driven by the strategic plan. So I would say that those are positives, but being cognizant of, I don't know, I hope that there's no one that is, I mean, suspecting or accusing of any kind of foul play or anything like that. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. That does concern me a little bit, that narrative is out in the public, that there is, that we're too close to G&D. I don't know. So, yeah.
All right, if there's no other discussion at this time, I would take a motion on any one of the four entities that we're discussing.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to move forward with G&D's proposal, and to contract with them for the continuation of the superintendent search.
All right, we have first by Jonathan, second by Jason. Any discussion, any further discussion? The only thing I would say is, just for disclosure, because we didn't really touch on it, with all four firms were pretty much in the same ballpark. I think Katie mentioned, but all four firms are pretty much in the same ballpark, with an exception of some a la carte services that are out there. Just with G&D, just to kind of get that out there, they have a base cost of $14,995. And this is the only firm that had this additional cost, which is 10% of the agreed upon salary at hire, as the second piece of the condition here, which is different from the other three firms, I believe. But there was a lot of other a la carte stuff for the other firms, so it's not really apples to apples. But that's kind of what we're looking at before we vote, just kind of give you a heads up. And if there's no further discussion, I will take a roll call vote. All right, Jason,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Brenda. And chair votes yes. Motion passes 6-0. So Michael and I will reach out and let them know if they're not already watching, which I suspect they are, because they usually watch our meetings, I said, so whatever. So we'll do that, and then obviously the last request, and it's not something we have to figure out tonight, we obviously need some school board members to be on this committee. So think about that. I know some of you guys have more heavy people like Michael have a heavy load. Jason and Jonathan run committees that are currently going to be pretty heavy, but I'm more than happy to do it as well if somebody else wants to join me. But like I said, we don't have to discuss that tonight. Just let me know in an email, and we'll get the ball rolling, and like I said, we'll let G&D know. Obviously, we'll get contracts signed and that process, and then we'll hit the ground running. And hopefully, not hopefully, I actually look forward to this process. I think we're going to do very well, and we'll have time and selection, which is always a good thing. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it. And then we'll move on to facilities. The only thing I would say about facilities, give me 1 second. I don't know who we're kicking it off to, but So I think last time we discussed that the September 24th meeting would be presenting a couple options for us, the school board to discuss for the warrant article. We have a facilities meeting next Wednesday at the 18th to prepare for that following Tuesday's meeting on the 24th. So I think at this point, not the last board meeting, but one of the previous board meetings, we discussed a warrant article in the range of 25 to 30 million. I think, and we'll talk more about this in facilities, but I had asked Jane also to look at something in the 18 to 20 million to give us options to look at what things look like at both intervals. So we'll do that, and then the expectation on the 24th will be to move this forward and start the process of setting up the warrant article and educating the public and talking with the public on that. The only other, I think, Jane, am I missing anything? There's one other thing I can't remember off the top of my head, so you got all commitments from everybody to meet those deadlines. I know we talked, but I think everyone was on board and you're good to go, right, for the 18th? All right, perfect. Did you guys have anything that you wanted to talk in detail about, or was that just really this? Just that? Okay. Anyone else on the board have any questions or concerns? Are we all, I mean, I in all fairness, I kind of threw the 18 to 20 million in afterwards just to kind of open up the options, because we should see it from both perspectives. And obviously some of the feedback we received at our last board meeting, depending on who was speaking, I brought that up as well. So, and also Jane, I know Jane will do the tax impacts at both options for us. And then, yeah, so unless there's something else, we'll move on, but that's all we really have for facilities update tonight.
The one thing that I had asked last time is that we just received the information so that whatever numbers, figures, whatever it looked like, as soon as you guys hash it out in the committee, to distribute it to the rest of the board so we can be prepared to have dialogue the following Tuesday. Questions, comments, concerns, and really get down to brass tacks.
Yeah, definitely. I suspect on the 18th, it'll be more, we should be able to narrow that down and get that out to the board the next day.
Thank you.
Next morning or whatever. Okay, no problem.
Just, is the expectation for us to essentially be ready to move, like, for us to choose between, that 25 to $30 million option or that 15 to $20 million option? Is that your idea?
Yeah, that's the hope. And obviously, it doesn't have, the range can be 18 to 30, right? Depending on what we discussed that night. We could hash out a few things here or there, but yeah, I think that's the expectation. So that would be 24th, and, as we start to have our next facility meetings, we can start talking about next steps to talk to the community and go from there. Because it sounds like, got some good feedback from the legislative committee for those kind of numbers, so hopefully we can expand on that and really drive this home this year.
Yeah, the only other request is to start already considering, communication plans, regardless of which option or route that we decide to go, because as we know that is going to be immensely important. Again, I imagine we are doing some of the things that we did last year, and hopefully adding some new things in there as well, and finding different ways to engage the public. So I'll be interested. I think those are things that can happen in tandem.
All right, thank you. Jane, you're up. Fresh fruits and vegetable program.
Okay, the Fresh Fruits and Vegetable Program is something that the district has been very fortunate to be able to participate in through the Department of Nutrition for the state. And in the past, it was Grinnell for the first couple of years solely. And then They added Ernest P. Barca and Derry Village School. So I just wanted to bring to you tonight the newest allocation, and with Derry Village closed, South Range was the next qualifying school. And just to compare from last year to this year of what the allocation is, last year the allocation for Ernest P. Barca was $35,614.66. This year it'll be $34,162. Derry Village last year was $28,700. So in its place, South Range will be $21,080. Grinnell last year was $25,950. And this year it's going to be $21,580. So the Fresh Fruits and Vegetable Program, in those 3 schools, they are able to spend that money on fruits and vegetables, but there's always a little lesson plan to go along with it. And it's a great opportunity for our students to try items that maybe they haven't had in their own home, and a wide variety of them. Christina Lebelzik, our Director of Child Nutrition, tries to locally source them from local farmers. And we've been really successful for that. And I think that all 3 of these schools, obviously it's the first year for South Range, but Grinnell and Ernest P. Barca have always really enjoyed having that program in their school. It's been a great benefit for us. So I would like to see if the board can make a motion to approve those 3 schools receiving the FFVP funds.
So moved.
First by Jason, second by Brenda. All in favor? Aye. All right, so motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Jane. Of course, yeah.
I believe they don't qualify.
I'm sorry, did you ask why East Derry wasn't included? It's based on free and reduced numbers.
All right, Jane. Fun time. All right, so we'll talk about the retained funds for 23-24. Obviously, from the notes, we have to make a decision tonight for Jane to do her filing. So I'll let Jane give us the details.
Sure. So in the presentation, page 1, I just wanted to give people an overview of what retained or unassigned fund balances were. Retained funds are fairly new to school districts. Towns have had them for many, many years, but school districts have only just recently been allowed to actually retain funds from one year to the next of your unassigned balances. To note, they are not cumulative. So, for example, last year, the board voted to retain $800,000 from the year-end funds of 22-23. That $800,000 doesn't just accumulate in an account somewhere and then we add to that. That just rolls back into your your year-end number and becomes sort of the start of your next fiscal year. So it's not something that you save aside. It either gets spent on emergency items like a major maintenance repair that you need to do, or out-of-district tuitions that you weren't expecting, things like that. But I wanted to just show people what we've retained. 17-18 was the first year that the board voted to retain any funds. So I wanted to highlight from 17-18 how much we've retained each year. Again, retained funds are different than unreserved, so you're able to retain them. And if you don't spend it during the year, it rolls back into your ending fund balance. An unassigned fund balance is what you have left over at the end of the year that you haven't assigned to anywhere else, that you're going to basically give back to reduce taxation in the following year. Okay, so they are 2 totally different things. In that page 1, I just wanted to highlight that I noted what the retained funds were in any given year and how much we also had for unassigned funds. So, for example, last year we retained $800,000, and we had so after that we had an unassigned fund balance of $2.1 million. So the $2.1 million went to offset taxes, 800 stayed with the district. Okay? So for the 23-24 year, that's what you would be making a motion and a vote on tonight. On page 3, I tried to keep this really simple. When we were going through the budget process last fall, we used $2 million as a placeholder of what we anticipated that we would return at the end of this fiscal year, or at the end of 23-24, what we would return to offset taxes. And we had used $2 million as that placeholder. And so the tax estimations at that time were set using $2 million. Right now, again, this is not audited, but we are close. Right now, we're looking at our unassigned fund balance as $2.4 million. So your options for retaining some funds would be, if you were to retain the $2 million that you estimated back in the fall, and you kept that with the district and didn't offset the taxes, that would be approximately a 32-cent tax impact. If you were to retain $1 million and 1.4 million of our current unassigned fund balance, it would be a tax impact of 20 cents. If you retained $1 million, it would be an 11-cent tax impact. And if you retained just the surplus of what you had estimated, there would be no tax impact. So if you retained $457,000, you'd have no tax impact. Let me just say that I am using, when I'm estimating these tax impacts, I'm using the assessed valuations from last year, what was approved last year. I don't have the new ones yet, so this, these could be off slightly, pennies here or there. Would also keep in mind, we are going to receive, I think, a little over $2 million, somewhere in the $2 million range, we anticipate for CAT aid this fall. And that's more than we had budgeted, so I will make the adjustment when I do the state reporting. So I think you do have a little bit of a wiggle room if you choose to retain more. But these were just examples. You can certainly, I tried to use easy numbers, but you can certainly, if you want to retain, 800,000, it's about 2 cents for every 100,000, somewhere around there. And again, that will change if the assessed valuation changes. Does that, so just for those at home, again, if we retained 457,000, 2 million would go to offset taxes. Sure.
The first question.
I think you're on.
If my assumption is, just make sure my assumption is correct. Tax assessments, if those go up, that means the tax impact would actually decrease, correct?
That's valuation.
And then the other question I have is with the CAT aid that you mentioned, the $2 million. When we get that, do we then have the same choice at that time to then return that money, or is that money just going back to the district?
No, typically in the fall, when we actually received what we believe is our estimate, and when I get ready to do tax rate setting, I have to fill out an MS, another form, and estimate my revenues. In that, I'm going to increase my CAT aid. So, and I'm going to decrease my Medicaid because I think we realize Medicaid's not panning out like it used to. So we're going to reduce that, but there will be some additional funds that I'll put in. So you'll see the immediate tax impact with the CAT aid this fiscal year. And as a note, the CAT aid is always for the prior year. So all the work that Laura does and her staff and her department, anything that she works on this year for CAT aid, you won't receive a check for that till the following year. Mm-hmm.
Jane, so question on budget piece. So when we do the budget this year, we should probably consider $2 million being a high number. Maybe we should look at lowering that number for the future.
I would agree. I would lower it. And if I can just have everybody go back to page 2, if you take your retained funds and add it to your unassigned fund balance in any of those given years, that was your actual unassigned fund balance before you retained. However, those were pretty, unusual years when we were, returning 4 million and retaining 2.8. Those were the years we had a lot of COVID expenses that were picked up by federal grants, so that gave us large surpluses. We had huge rebates from Health Trust. We had premium discounts, almost no rates for Primex on a couple of years. So when you're looking at these, they were very, very unusual years, and I think that we have to cut back that estimate of the 2.5, and maybe we're going tax rate setting, we do $1 million, $1.5 million. Because I think that based on what we had to make for budget cuts and being in a default, your unreserved fund balance is not going to be where we are right now.
So with that being said, Jane, looking at these 4 options, does it make sense for us to consider option A with the knowledge of what you just mentioned regarding upcoming budget, right? Because we had to make a lot of cuts to areas that we usually save money on because we can't fill the positions. And we've shrunk those. We shrunk Pinkerton's number again in the second round of the budget. What do you think, in your opinion, and realizing that the facility situation we're in, obviously, what do you think is the best course of action? And I realize if we retain the 2 million, there's a impact to that clearly. But at the same time, we have to factor in everything else that we're dealing with, when it comes to facilities and whatnot. So just
Sure.
kind of give your thoughts on that.
Sure. My recommendation would be, you could certainly go with A. I think if we're trying to be a little bit conservative, B or C would be, I think, good for the district, put you in a good financial standing. And some of that CAT aid will offset a little bit of that tax impact.
So Jane, when do you think we'll know the assessed values of the town? And any prediction on when we might have a tax rate setting? I know that's way off, but.
Well, tax rate setting is very dependent on when my reports get in on time and when the town's reports get in on time. So it's usually at the end of October, beginning of November, somewhere around there. And we work really good together to make sure that our reports are in on time, because I know that the town is always anxious to get the tax rate set and get that moving. The assessed valuation, they may have revised. When I checked in last week, he wasn't able to get back with me with one, so hopefully it will be out soon.
Okay, thanks.
And the reason why I'm bringing this forward is because I have to submit our DOE 25 I got an extension until September 30th, but it's a 25-page report of detailed financials. So it does take quite a bit of work to get that done. So obviously, if you really needed to put this off to the next vote, I would save that, which is on page 1. And I would continue with the rest of the report. But if you could vote tonight, that would be great.
Thanks. I'm inclined to lean to B or C. I think we should also be fair to the citizens of the town.
I would agree with Brenda, B or C. I think we probably need to find a sweet spot between, the 457 and how much, you're expecting to make back from, the change to the tax rate and the CAT aid. And, you know, it's just a matter of figuring out what that number, you know, what that sweet spot is.
Yeah, I came in tonight actually thinking and potentially suggesting to retain it all, just considering where we are from a facility standpoint and just thinking, trying to think is how much, you know, from a flexibility standpoint, the district needs, especially seeing what happened, you know, or looking at, you know, West Running Brook and the banding and kind of the lack of flexibility we have there. And I understand scheduling came into play as well, but obviously with the news of the potential of, you know, an increase in CAD aid of up to the 2 million, I think, yeah, maybe, I don't know, I could go as far as option B, in my mind.
And can I just to be clear, so when I did budget CAD aid, we were, of course, I don't have it right in front of me, but we were probably somewhere in 800,000 budgeted, 700 or 800,000. So that's the difference that I'll be adding. Yep.
I mean, what about the option, if we took option A and essentially kind of remove that from any potential bond? Not gonna pay interest on that, use a number of 20 million, and instead of asking for 20 million, you took this 2 and not pay any type of interest, there's a 1-year tax impact on it, it just reduces the overall spend if we were to retain all of it.
So
Obviously, you'd have to run the number, but there's gonna be some sort of interest paid on $2 million, right? If we looked at $2 million on a 15-year bond, I don't have the chart, but if we retained it and just cut that right off the top of whatever type of bond we're gonna ask for.
So, in a regular business, that would make a lot of sense, right? But the way we're governed, and the vote doesn't happen until March, that 2 million just becomes the unreserved fund at the end of June 30th of 2025. And anything that you have for a bond is not going to start until at least the next fiscal year. So you wouldn't be able to use that to offset a bond payment or interest.
No, but maybe I worded it wrong, Jane, I apologize.
It's okay.
We could utilize that towards a project. We use West Running Brook as an example, and so you're not really utilizing it to pay down. We would retain and tackle a project with it.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry, I
if we were
did
looking at 20
misunderstand you,
million,
I'm
right?
sorry.
We wouldn't, maybe instead of asking for 20, if we retain this, then we'd ask for 18, saying we're going to utilize the 2 million we retained towards our facilities plan over the next 3 years. So then we're not paying interest on that $2 million on a potential bond.
Or could the possibility also be that we set up a capital reserve
Capital reserve, right.
with that money? I'm not saying, yeah.
You would have to have a public hearing
Yeah.
to set up a capital reserve. And you would have, if you were going to use that 2 million to do say the facade starts needing immediate repair, which we know it does, and you used it for that, that is an emergency that you would be able to use it for in 24, 25. You just wouldn't, and I did misunderstand your question, I'm sorry about that. You just wouldn't be able to save that money for next year, for next year's project. But if you had an emergency maintenance project, you could use it for this year.
So
The project would have to be completed by, what is it, June 30th? Or encumbered by June 30th.
Yes.
So Jason, that exact point was brought up at, I can't remember what meeting, I think it was Michael who said that there's a possibility of cluttering up the vote in March because we talked about, right? We talked about maybe bringing over some of this money for a capital reserve. And I'm not saying that's what everybody thinks. I know the the feedback that we got at that time, and was that we might be kind of cluttering the vote and asking too much and too many separate questions. And that may be the case, it may not be. That's just some of the feedback we got last time, the last meeting or the meeting before.
I think it was actually Jonathan who brought it up at
Apologize.
first, but we've
Okay.
talked about it since then. But yeah, if it was something that we had to put on the ballot in March with a bond for capital improvements, it could, yeah, kind of clutter up if you have both a bond for capital improvements and a capital reserve for facilities improvements. Could seem like it's a one or the other kind of thing.
So just playing devil's advocate, the West Running Brook project wouldn't qualify as a need where we could utilize the 2 million for that? I don't know the answer to that. So I get the point of not,
So we looked into that at facilities actually, not too long ago, and I think Jane basically said, we don't have enough money to do it. We couldn't get to the $3 million, if I remember properly.
You wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
do the West Running Brook project. You're at the $3 million mark, and I think when I talked to, or maybe when I brought it to the last board meeting, Alan from Gale, I think it was a 13% add-on, so we're,
but this wouldn't offset some of that if it's encumbered by then? So it didn't have to go to the ballot.
I would have to think about that, Jason.
Jane, can you explain why we have retained funds and what we can do with them and what we can't do with them? That might be helpful for all of us. Also might be helpful for the people who are watching.
Sure. So you're retaining it for emergency purposes. You wouldn't be able to retain funds and give people raises. You wouldn't be able to retain funds and buy things that aren't emergency items. They are for maintenance if you needed to use it because you had your HVAC went and you had to repair that. You could use your retained funds for that. So it is just emergency. West is, I would say West is considered an emergency,
That's the question.
but we wouldn't, yes,
I
but
know
we
the
wouldn't
2
be
doesn't
starting on the
cover whole thing,
project
but it
until.
covers a good chunk of it.
Well, and if we have a larger retained fund at the end of the year, that becomes the unassigned, correct? And then,
Yes.
again, that's where I would be fine with B. Again, I worry about going to option C because I don't know if that gives us enough flexibility, because then we have the option to potentially do that if it is an actual emergency and we have funds that we can use to put towards West Running Brook. Or at that point in the future, we could potentially take money from the unassigned fund balance and put it toward a capital reserve.
Yes, you
Correct.
could have a warrant article that asks voters to do that so that you could retain or put into a capital reserve account. And I guess my only thing with that one, Jason, is that you could use your 2 million retained as part of that, as long as we knew we were getting the other, 1.5 to complete the project. But I know that Austin and maybe Joe as well too, when we've been in meetings with Alan, and most recently, Austin and I on the phone with Alan, I think, Austin, you may have asked them a question, can you do partial, parts of the building or sections, and they did not recommend doing that. So it's really a entirety of a project at West Running Brook.
The other thing is too, I mean, the cost that we have from Gale for the project is an estimate, right? So we'd still need to go out to bid for the project and get a real quote from an actual contractor that would be completing the project for X amount of money.
Right, so he has the specs, so he estimates what he believes it will be, but obviously if we're gonna put it on the ballot, and I would recommend that we move forward with Gale sometime in the December, January range, have him start going out to bid for it so that we are ready to award a contract in March after that vote, when the vote passes. Confident it's going to happen this year.
All right, I'll make a motion then. I'll make a motion to do option B and retain, make sure I'm saying this right. If I do option B, we're retaining $1,457,837. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right,
And
that is
you're
my
making that motion, it could change slightly with,
Yep.
but it's there.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, we got a first by Jonathan, second by Jason. Any discussion?
Not to be a pain, but should we wait until the next meeting till we have a better idea of that number?
I don't know that it's going to change, and I know we talked about, I'm not sure it's going to change by the next meeting.
Okay.
The auditors have a lot of our documents, but it really is a matter of them, looking through things and saying, we don't agree that this was a payable, or this should have been in a prior year. So I think that we're good with where we are for the DOE 25. If it were to change significantly, I'll come back to the board
Okay.
at the next meeting. Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.
All right, just to be clear, we are voting to retain $1,457,837. That means $1 million would be given back to the taxpayers in the upcoming tax rate setting. Yeah, all right, okay. We'll do a roll call vote. Jason?
Yes.
Katie? Yes. Jonathan?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Brenda? Chair votes yes. Motion passes 6-0. Jane, thank you for putting this together for us. Appreciate it. All right, Jane, you're up for your administrator update.
Okay, I'm actually going to use Cliff for a little display here. So Christina Lebelzik and her staff have been working really hard trying to do as much outreach to parents. I know they did the open houses when we were doing the transition nights in the spring, and they've had tables set up for, given the QR codes for the online applications. This is just another, Cliff, this is just another source. And I want to point out the Greater Salem Contractors Association worked in conjunction with New Hampshire Hunger Solutions and they donated all of this signage for several school districts. And they have like poles for the back. We can either put them out in the front of the school outside, or we can put them in the lobby of the schools. But parents can just go by. The QR code on the bottom right that Cliff is pointing out is for families who want to apply for the SNAP program. So SNAP program is different than the free and reduced, but parents can do that. And if you are approved on SNAP, then you're approved for free and reduced. The top QR code would be the Derry School District's QR code, and that takes you right to our online application. And the majority of the applications that I've been getting are the online applications, very simple to fill out. Christina, we've had a lot of applications coming in, people qualifying for free or reduced. We have had a lot of questions. Families get a little confused that if they were free or reduced last year, why aren't they just that same status this year? But every year you have to fill out the application. So this is another way to get our message out. You can see that there are different languages on there. So I think we have 40 languages that are spoken just in our district alone. So, Christina works with staff in our ESOL program for our speakers of other languages, but anything that they can do to help us to get more families to apply online. But I think for the next board meeting, I'll have her give me how many have now been approved for free and how many have been approved for reduced. Also keep in mind, the income thresholds are not set by the Derry School District. They are set by federal guidelines. Christina's had a few people upset with her that they either didn't qualify or didn't qualify this year, but they qualified last year. Unfortunately, that's not anything that we have control over. So we try to remember to tell parents, you want to list everybody that lives in your home. That counts towards your, some people don't think if they have other family members living in their house, they should list them because that changes your qualification. And that sometimes helps you to qualify. So again, Christina wanted to make sure that the board was aware that these were donated, so we'll have them in each of our schools. So thanks, Cliff. Good job. So food service is going really well. They've had some changes. Gilbert H. Hood has new serving line station, so they're doing really well over there. And we're really happy with the way it's going this year and the number of applications that are coming in. As a reminder, those applications and the qualifications of those who get approved for free and reduced not only help the families, but they help the district grant monies that we receive. It affects a lot, so we encourage people to fill those out. I just want to give an update on the playground. I feel like I keep saying it's going to be another week. And every time I see Michael, I think of Lennon, that it's going to be another week.
I've been getting my own updates.
Are you? Good. So, just as it has been with a lot of vendors lately and suppliers, the supplier for the rubber material was delayed, and it's actually being shipped from New York down to, I think it's Georgia, and then it's coming from Georgia back up. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to us, but that's how it's going. And so we think it's arriving on Wednesday. And then that will be installed. That takes a couple of days to cure. The pavement that's out there, it takes 21 days before they put the paint on there to paint in the basketball lines and the Foursquare. So I was up there the other day. The playground's looking awesome. So otherwise, the seed's down, the fencing is up, the walkway from the school to the playground is in. It's so close. We're just getting there. Pretty much all of our, other than punch list items, all of the projects are completed. All the renovations, that's all been completed. The only project that's outstanding right now is the Honeywell project. I think I mentioned before, I have to write an extension, and they're hopeful that the materials will come in prior to the deadline. I talked to the DOE last week. If we get closer to that deadline, we can do another extension. So that's where we are right now with that. And we are currently, because I'm always in an audit, we're in our 23-24 audit. We're also finishing up our single audit for 22-23, which a single audit focuses on grants that are over 700,000. And so we always have single audits. They just get to choose which ones they are.
So Jane, I was thinking after our last meeting, we had talked a little bit about the free and reduced, how there was legislation to auto-enroll certain people who would qualify. So one of the things I'm thinking about, obviously election day is tomorrow, and then November we got the final election for state reps and every governor and all that. It might be worth our while, I know you got 1,000 things on your list to do, but it might be worth our while to invite the representatives and senator to get an education on what that would do for the district if they could figure out a way to bypass the privacy issues and just show them an impact of what that really means if you get 100 more people to sign up or 50 more people. It may be, maybe it's like anything. These guys have got 1,000 different bills to deal with. They may not be in tune to this. It may be worth your while to have a half hour, 45-minute kind of training on it. Just say, guys, this is why this is important. This is why we need your help with this, and figure out the privacy issues and all that. And I think it might be worthwhile. I don't know what the timeline would be. I don't know when bills and all that start heating up, but
Sure.
It may be worth
And I know
the
that
extra
Christina
effort.
advocated for it. She worked with some folks before that vote happened, advocating in the positive to have that happen. We have direct certified students now who we know who they are. We also get the applications for those who are approved by SNAP. So the confidentiality really is, it's a very, very limited scope of people who even see those applications, very limited. So it is confidential. I, as a signer, cannot share what's on those applications. I can't share with people in my finance department who's applied, who's on free, who's on reduced. It's very confidential. So we would support any increase in having families who potentially qualify. And as a side note, I believe your income guidelines are different from SNAP than they are the free and reduced applications. So if you got denied for the school district, try applying for SNAP.
And I think part of the reason that they were worried about confidentiality is because there's organizations sharing information to a different organization, and that was the concern with the privacy, not that we weren't going to be confidential. It was how it was being shared, the method it was being shared, and who it was being shared with. And I think, they just didn't have enough time to hammer that out in the last session, I think. But that was the reason.
Thanks, Jane. Austin, we got personnel. I think we have one, right, to talk about? Or maybe more.
What's that?
And
Personnel?
I think we have one, at least one issue, right? Yeah.
Yes, I would like to move forward, nomination of Jean Fitzpatrick to fill one of the special ed teacher positions over at Gilbert H. Hood Middle School.
Motion to approve Jean Fitzpatrick.
Second.
First by Jonathan, second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. You're up. Still up with superintendent update.
Okay, over the first 2 weeks of school, I've been able to visit all 6 school buildings to speak with both students as well as staff from all different areas and job titles. The food service staff are happy to be feeding and interacting with students and staff once again. I was able to personally thank many of our maintenance and custodian staff for the exceptional job they do to keep buildings clean and in good working order. Nurses are concentrating on the care and health of all students as they do with their professional and cheery dispositions. The school counselors are doing what they do best, which is making sure all students get whatever help they need to be successful. Paraprofessionals are assisting teachers and students with the important process of teaching and learning, while teachers are building positive relationships with their students, planning engaging lessons, and working collaboratively with all their colleagues. Administrators and all of the other professional staff have welcomed every student while getting to know some new faces and reacquainting themselves with some familiar faces. Both school resource officers, remember that's both now. We're happy to say we now have 2. Gilbert H. Hood SRO Tori Kidd has returned, and our new SRO at West Running Brook is Rob Irwin. And they have begun to meet and greet staff and especially students to let everyone know our schools are a safe place to learn. The overall atmosphere in the schools is nothing short of outstanding as we begin the 2024-25 school year. I want to thank everyone for a wonderful start, and I will see you all soon. For families interested in getting into their children's schools to see what I am talking about, the open houses have been scheduled. If one or more of your children attend Grinnell Elementary School, hopefully you attended this past Thursday, September 5th. For everyone else, the upcoming schedule is as follows. Ernest P. Barker Elementary School is tomorrow, Wednesday, September 11th. Tomorrow is Tuesday. We're all doing that tonight, I guess. It's not Tuesday, it's Monday. So Ernest P. Barker Elementary School is Wednesday, scratch the tomorrow. It's the day after tomorrow, which is September 11th. Gilbert H. Hood Middle School is the next day, Thursday, September 12th. West Running Brook Grade 5 is next Monday, September 16th, and West Running Brook Grade 6 is I almost did it again, is next Tuesday, September 17th. East Derry Memorial Elementary School is Wednesday, September 18th, and we round out our open houses at South Range Elementary School next Thursday, September 19th. The number of open positions in our district continues to decline, but here are those openings as of today. Grinnell Elementary School Special Education Teacher, Student Support Assistant, and Math Assistant. East Derry Memorial Elementary School, Math Assistant, Student Support Assistant. West Running Brook Intermediate School, special education teacher, student support assistant. Gilbert H. Hood Middle School, special education teachers. Thanks to the nomination of Jean Fitzpatrick, we now have 2 openings at Gilbert H. Hood. Ernest P. Barker Elementary School, math assistant, student support assistant. South Range Elementary School, math assistant, student support assistant. District vacancies, special education assistants, 3 custodial positions, 2 school psychologist positions, occupational therapist, the assistant director of student services, school district treasurer, deputy treasurer, speech language pathologist, 2 positions, and tutors for the New England Center for Children. If you are interested and available or want more information, please contact Kathy, Kim, or Mary Ellen in our Human Resource Department, or speak to an administrator at your school. Finally, this afternoon at Ernest P. Barker Elementary School, Derry student and Troop 98 Boy Scout Andrew Lagasse unveiled his Eagle Scout project. It is a beautiful, and I mean beautiful, and comfortable, handcrafted bench dedicated to the memory of his neighbor and former Derry Superintendent Dr. John Moody. Congratulations to Andrew, and thank you for such a beautiful addition to the Barker lobby. I know Dr. Moody would be very proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. That's awesome.
And
I gotta go over there
David,
and see that. Yeah.
I just want to assure people that the positions that we have open in the district, that caseloads have been kind of reallocated and shared amongst other special ed teachers and special ed, other staff, the psychologists, speech and language, and occupational therapists. Those are contracted services. So that we are lacking our employees, but we're not lacking coverage for the students.
Right. No, it makes sense.
Thank you, Laura.
All right, so we have manifest. Who's reading the manifest tonight? Not Brenda, right? Are you? Excuse me, FYIs. We got the enrollment report in the packet. I don't know, Austin, anything of note that you want to discuss on that?
Nope, we are hanging tough as of right now, but we will keep our eye on it.
All righty. All right, so we got Jonathan with the manifest.
I will make a motion to approve the manifest for a grand total of $3,534,517.28. That consists of general payroll of $2,783,442.23 and general expenses of $751,075.05.
All right, we have first by Jonathan,
Second.
second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes 6-0. Any other committee discussions? Yeah, please.
I just want to make a comment to all the people who are concerned about transportation. We do have a transportation meeting this Thursday, and those discussions are ongoing. I had more phone calls this afternoon about late buses, and we do understand the problems that are happening with parents trying to work and all of those things that are going on and children being late. So we're trying to work it out, and there is a meeting on Thursday.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Brenda. What I'd say to that is, too, is I know we're trying to work the kinks out, but if we determine that the kinks can't be worked out to satisfactory to our students and parents, we need to figure out other options to move forward with early on in the game rather than letting it ride later on. So we've discussed a lot of options over the summer and prior. I would say nothing should be left off the table. It may be an inconvenience if we do decide to do something or whatever the case may be. We just want to get this right and move forward because, I know 15 minutes is 15 minutes, but 30 minutes to 45 minutes is not reasonable. So, we need to really decide before we get too far into the school year which direction we want to go. And if that's to change course and fix the current problem, that should be on the table as well. So I would say on Thursday's meeting, let's have that conversation and figure out what the proper way forward is. If we think we can fix it in the current situation, fine. I just, I don't think it's livable for the whole school year. And what I would say also is, Thursday, I really would like to understand if there is a strike, what our plans are. I'm sure you've already discussed it, we haven't talked about it, but I'd like to have that discussion as well on Thursday. And then, did we invite First Student Thursday? Okay. So, yeah, coming out of Thursday's meeting, I think we need to have some sort of concrete like, plan, whether it's we're going to make this work, we can do it, we just need to do X, Y, and Z, or we need to regroup and figure out what it looks like, the multitude of options we discussed prior to the summer. So I'm confident we can get this done. I just think that at this point, we just need to really make that determination what the next steps are. And Thursday, I think, is the time to do that. So let's be prepared for that, and hopefully have a productive meeting and kind of and make sure we rectify, what's going on now. So, all right, thank you.
Yeah, and right, and I want to commend Cliff, Dr. Dancy. He's been over at Pinkerton Academy every single afternoon, checking on buses and going on to buses and making sure kids are in the right place and keeping counts. And he has been putting the pressure. I've been on a number of conversations as well with the bus company, but putting the pressure on the bus company to come up with some solutions to these problems. So we're hoping that we'll have some of those ready to run by you Thursday morning.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else? I don't think we've met. Many committees have met. We have facilities next week. I think we have next this week, Thursday. So, nothing else. All right, then we'll move on to other business.
Motion to adjourn. Oh.
Other business, I was like, whoa. No, I want to go home too. No, I have a question. Where is the video from the last facilities meeting?
We didn't actually have one.
How come? We started videoing them and then we didn't?
We did, yeah.
Okay, just people have been asking and I thought, well, I'll find it, and I didn't find it, so.
John? Yeah. Jonathan, before you go to the adjourn again, I do want to say Joe Crawford is in the process of setting up a policy committee meeting. We had a potential for the end of September. It looks like it's going to be October now. There's a number of dates out there. I know Brenda has already confirmed that she's available. Katie's working on her schedule to see what her availability is and so forth. Hopefully we will definitely have one of those dates in October.
With the elementary schools and their specials, are they on the same schedule as far as every school, their students are getting specials every day of the week? There's not a school that's on a different rotation?
So all four schools, all schools have the same specials that are offered, and they all have specials every day. Barca has a slightly different schedule.
And what does that look like?
It's still specials, is what you're saying? Yeah, it's still the same UAs. What does Barca's schedule look like?
So are there
Sorry.
students that are not getting a special one of their days during the week?
No.
So what is Barca's?
Barca has a 6-day rotation.
So what does that mean for students?
So what that means is that students will have physical education twice during the 6-day rotation, and then they will have music, library, STEM, and art
Barca, because the population is much bigger at Barca, there's just, we have 2 PE classes at Barca. So it's a 6-day rotation, but there are no students in the district that don't get specials during a day, if that's clear.
And did we know that, was that part of the original plan?
Yes.
Kate, are you hearing something different? Is that why you asked? I was curious.
Well, just what I was hearing, I was unclear on, so I was just looking for what that actually meant.
Yeah, it very much comes down to the number thing because they are bigger. You have a maximum of 5 elementary classrooms in a grade level. Then they have the 5 specials or unified arts, I like to call them myself. But Baca has at least 3 of the grades, I think, that have 6 teachers. So therefore, that's why they added the 6-day rotation. That is why no child will miss out any day of the week on a special.
Thank you.
If I might add, I used to teach on a 6-day unified arts rotation when I was in the classroom, or my students went there, and the beauty of that is that when you have a holiday or a snow day or any missed day, the kids don't miss out on that UA. You just come back on the next day. If it was day 2, you come back, it's day 2, and everybody gets it. Whereas on a Monday to Friday schedule, if you miss the Monday, whatever the kids had on as the unified arts on Monday is gone, and they don't, so those kids who have music on Mondays, they're going to miss every Monday holiday that they have. Whereas the 6-day rotation schedule, they never miss their UA.
Jan, I actually have one question. I'm sorry, I forgot. Has everyone on the fiscal advisory gotten a copy of the finalized schedule, or will be soon? I think October 1st is our first meeting, I think.
I think that Kathleen sent it out to all of them.
Perfect. And then binders are somewhere after that, right? I mean, somewhere before the first meeting, I assume? No.
The what is? I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, never mind. Scratch that.
Binders.
Scratch that.
Okay.
Never mind. As long as they get the schedule and they know they're going to be there on the 1st of whatever day, 1st of October, okay.
I'll-
That's good.
I'll
Thank
follow
you.
up with her tomorrow, but I
Awesome.
think she did.
Perfect, thank you. All right, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First by Jonathan,
Second.
second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passed 6-0. Thank you, good night.